ActionSA has become the latest political party to withdraw from active participation in the National Dialogue Convention this weekend. The party says there were too many concerns from stakeholders that had not been addressed. Now, the convention, remember, is expected to be held on Friday and Saturday at Unisa's Pretoria campus. Athol Trollip is ActionSA's parliamentary leader and joins us live now for this discussion. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. So, I read the statement issued by your political party a little earlier today, and you say that you're not convinced that any of the concerns that have been raised by various stakeholders have truly been addressed. What tops that list for ActionSA?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, we had committed ourselves to participate in the national dialogue because we believed if there was a national dialogue discussing issues about the travails that face South Africans, that we as a represented political party should be there. We were a bit ambivalent about it, and this was increased by the fact that we heard that there was a price tag attached to this dialogue of around 750 million rand. Now that was a source of concern for us, which was magnified by the withdrawal of some of the legacy foundations, foundations that were an integral part of the planning of this national dialogue. And the issues that we are most concerned about are lack of independence, overbearing attitude of the presidency taking over this national dialogue, which has driven some of the main legacy foundations away, and also the budget issue. You know, we don't know where the budget's coming from. We don't know where the appropriation has been made. I learned today on social media that 25 million rand had been deposited into the NEDLAC account from the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation. Now, I'm a member of that portfolio committee, and I have absolutely no knowledge of that decision. We don't know where that money is coming from, what the opportunity cost is going to be for that department to offset that 25 million rand. I've also heard other price tags of 42 million rand for the weekend's work. Now, if only 25 million has been deposited into the NEDLAC account, what's happened to the other 17 million rand? And I remember well when COVID struck South Africa, we had our president telling us that he would make sure that no money would go missing and unaccounted for. And it was a wonderful time of looting for ANC cadres during that period. So what our greatest concern is that it looks like this national dialogue is being usurped by the presidency and by government. And our concern is that they might use this dialogue over the next few months as their campaign strategy for 2026.
Yeah, and I wonder then, are you not convinced, by what the committee, the preparatory task team, as they call themselves, said earlier this week that, although we still have a lot of questions in that regard around the budget and the donations in kind, they say, and the fact that they're still working, to put all of these together. But also, one of the things that they repeatedly said is that this is a process that they plan to hand over to the people. So you doubt that?
I doubt it very much because even the budget, the budget only arrived yesterday and the event is taking place this weekend, which means that any spending of that budget is going to be outside of the prescripts of the Public Finance Management Act. And I really don't believe that the presidency is going to hand this over. And that's why some of these legacy foundations have left. But what we're doing as ActionSA, we're not going to boycott. We're not going to use this as a lever to get government to do what we want them to do. We are sending 2 of our senior MPs with a watching brief to go and listen to what's happening and what the planning is for the rollout of the national dialogue. And if we have one sense or we sniff one sense of this being captured or hijacked by the government or the presidency, I'm sure they will report back to our party and we'll take a decision not to participate. We are not going to legitimize an illegitimate process, and we're not going to allow the ANC to get away with funding their election campaign with taxpayers' money.
So when you then look, for example, you think about FF Plus and the DA, when one goes through the statement of intent, clause 12 is clear that the parties were agreeing that there's a national dialogue that was to come. And now we've seen, of course, the developments around them. Should these not have been ironed out before the parties agreed that this was to be done?
One would really think so, because all the parties that are in the government of national unity signed the statement of intent a year ago, and they were endorsing this process. We, as other parties that are outside of the GNU, have had absolutely no insight into the preparations. The president simply made an announcement and announced the date unilaterally, announced the eminent Pearson's composition of that panel, unilaterally. And this got the backs up of many of the people that are involved. So I'm surprised that GNU partners have pulled out, because they signed the statement of intent. But I know some of those parties are using it as a leverage to get what they want out of the GNU. We are not going to boycott. We are sending those MPs to do oversight and to monitor how this process is going to roll out, and to make sure that it becomes citizen-led and not government or presidency-led.
Which parties are these that are using it for their leverage?
Well, we definitely know the DA have used it as leverage, because when Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield was fired from the GNU, John Steenhuisen made an announcement that within 48 hours, if 3 ministers weren't fired, they would make a national announcement. And that national announcement, 48 hours later, was that they were pulling out of the GNU because their minister had been fired, and that the president refused to fire other ministers with corruption clouds hanging over their heads. That's not a secret. That's a national fact.
So, as a final question then, before I let you go briefly, so if, all of this continues to happen with some of the concerns that are being raised, not only by yourselves, a number of parties, not political parties per se, but what is at risk at the end of this entire process with all of these concerns?
I think what is at risk is what the legacy foundations have said. They've said, if this is not citizen-led and it isn't authentic process of reaching into the homes of every South African to say, where are the issues, how do you believe they should be addressed, then it'll just become a fig leaf for the ANC government using this process to improve their profile and to maybe uplift the support from flagging supporters. And I think Moletsi Mbeki placed it really well when he said today that it appears by all accounts that the ANC government have run out of answers, and they're now deflecting to this national dialogue to make South Africans believe that they're prepared to listen to them about how to fix the affairs of South Africa. Now, we know how to fix the affairs of South Africa. We need to cut corruption. We need to grow the economy. We need to create jobs. We need to deal with crime. We need to fix the infrastructure, and we need to make more people, more jobs available for South Africans. Those are simple things. But the ANC government has run out of options. So they're now going to use this national dialogue as a window dressing exercise. And if that's what it is, we're not going to legitimize it.
Athol Trollip, appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was Athol Trollip, the ActionSA's parliamentary leader.